to your jersey. Let me see. We should be live. So happy Sunday, everybody. We have George from Crypto Service
Hello,
and
I'm back.
Rob from Digital Asset News. And Rob, we
Hello,
are
everybody.
so that should be good. Now and the audio seems to be working. Everything's good. So, how are you gentlemen doing on this fine weekend?
Bitcoin
We're
is at
doing as good as
61,000, so it's good.
yeah, exactly. As good as the market will allow me to be. It's a pretty great time to be involved in crypto.
Good, good. Well, we have a lot to discuss. A lot of stuff that I believe is on people's minds right now. People have a lot of concern. They're hearing stuff out on the internet about, oh, should I sell Bitcoin? Oh, Raul Paul said this. Oh, PlanB said that. So we're going to tuck into it, address what I believe to be the top concerns for the audiences out there. And we're going to touch on a whole bunch of stuff. So I did create a couple of little slides, and let me see. As you know, yes, let's look at the market real quick, first of all, and see what's going on and see what you guys think. So the first thing right now, let me see if I'm doing this. And all right, so hopefully my screen is showing out there. You never know. Or is it? Good.
It's there.
All right. So this is the chart of everything benchmarked against Bitcoin. I'm doing a lot more of that right now because that's really the best view of the world, because we don't care about the US dollar anymore. Where you can see a couple of green spots. Your VeChain is up, George. That's nice.
Yes, yes, always nice.
Celo, Phantom. Phantom's always like a machine. Chainlink is very red, which is unusual. Doge, that's normal. But Solana is up too. What do you guys think of the market conditions? And we have Bitcoin hovering around that 61K level. So really, it hasn't done much since Friday. But it looks like, the world isn't going to end on Monday with the launch of the ETF, which I believe about 20% of the population think could happen. I don't think so. I'm not on that train. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, George.
I think we all know that Bitcoin futures ETF is not what we're really looking for. We're looking for a true Bitcoin ETF. But Gary already said that we need to have Bitcoin futures ETF before a Bitcoin ETF. Is kind of like testing the market, right? So it's a precursor to that. And it gets us one step closer. I do think once we have a true Bitcoin ETF, that's going to open up the floodgates. We're going to have billions upon billions of dollars flowing in from companies that have been sitting on the sidelines, that didn't want to go through OTC market to make a purchase and have a custodian to store their Bitcoin. They just want exposure, real exposure to Bitcoin. And I think a Bitcoin ETF will bring that. But the futures ETF is kind of like, okay, we're going to get it first, and then we're going to get a real one. But I think something that a lot of people missed is in Europe, they just approved one. It was announced on the same day, a true Bitcoin ETF, and Fidelity is going to be the custodian, I believe, for them.
Yep.
So around the world, it's already happening. We have it in Canada, Brazil, and then soon in Europe. I don't remember which country, but it's going to come. It's going to come. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's going to come. But I know on Monday it's not going to fall apart, or Tuesday or whenever it is that it starts getting traded. But I'm nervous. I'm nervous about everything in the short term, because there's a lot of things that can be done, and we're going to go into that in detail later. But I think when everybody believes that the ETF is going to be the end all be all, and we're just going to go to the moon, I just don't see it like that. I'm sorry, I don't see that happening coming up quickly because of the ease of which you can manipulate this market, and that's why. And I guess this is what I've been hearing, that everybody's freaking out because I sold some Bitcoin. Yeah. At some point, you got to take a little bit profits off the table, and I did that because I need to do some things for some real estate investments, and it is not cheap when you're dealing with a 8-unit apartment complex. So, in this situation, I don't know if it's going to go from 60 to 70,000 when this happens, or maybe it does nothing, or maybe it just has a little retracement. Anyhow, it's not the point. The point is to use the cryptocurrency for what it's available for you to do to meet your goals. And again, my goals are not your goals.
Yeah, good point. I think as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of questions that I see coming in are kind of listed here. Why is the futures ETF approved before a spot ETF? And the answer is real simple. When a spot ETF launches, the big money that comes in, they need ways to manage their risk. Therefore, they need the futures ETF first. That's a simple answer to that. And then the question you just touched on, Rob, as well, will the future ETF make Bitcoin more prone to manipulation? So manipulation is a two-edged sword. Yes, it'll give people the tools to move heavy positions, but the disbursement and spread of Bitcoin is far harder to manipulate, I believe, than things like silver and gold that have just been manipulated ad nauseum for the last 2-3 decades. So from that perspective, all markets are manipulated, but this will just help attract more money to the space because it'll give the big institutional investors more confidence. And then the final question that's on everybody's minds is what to do with the GBTC. Like, it's nearly at a 20% discount. Do they hold? Do they wait? What happens if a spot ETF is approved? I've always said Grayscale will be approved first because they have 660,000 Bitcoins in it. How can you not approve that first? Right. And once that happens, the current discount will go to zero. And the management fee will go to like 0.5% or 1%. And that's just what's going to happen. But that could take 75 days. It could take 90 days. It could be early January 2022. What do you guys think of all that?
I mean, that'd be nice to see that happen. I don't know if it's going to come down the pipe that quickly. I think what they're looking for is wasn't one of the big issues that they were talking about as far as ETF to get through was the fact of manipulation in the very beginning. So maybe they're going to take a look at this. Gensler's like, okay, we're going to conditionally approve this and go through it. Let's see how it all works out. Ricardo Salinas, the billionaire from Mexico, he's saying the same thing. He's like, look, I want Bitcoin to really do well. I want it to be a legal tender. The Bank of Mexico shut me down. So if this doesn't work out too well, it's not going to look good for us. But even he's saying, look, these futures markets are ripe for manipulation.
Yep, absolutely.
Real quick, I mean, in terms of manipulation, I totally agree with James. I mean, of course, it's an instrument that traders can use, whales can use. But, we already have Bitcoin futures. Okay, so it's not like it's anything new. So now you're just stacking futures inside a fund, but still, it's been around for years now, and the market is much bigger. And as for GBDC, I know they just filed to become a true ETF. I think that'll be really interesting because the negative premium that everyone talks about, like right now, the negative premium means nothing. It could be negative 100 premium. You can't withdraw it. You can't redeem it for 100% Bitcoin, right? So it doesn't matter. But once it converts or they get the green light to convert, then it's going to be very interesting because everyone is going to be stockpiling GBDC before it gets converted to gain on that premium. And we'll see when that happens. That could be, like you said, 75 days is the minimum. But I think it's going to be a lot more than that because once Bitcoin futures ETF come out, Gary's going to look at it and probably wait at least 90 days before getting a true Bitcoin ETF approved. So, but it'll be interesting, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Let's switch gears. Another thing that rattled people out there is Mr. PlanB, who now is like a voyeur in this, somebody who could really, really anticipate the future with all his price predictions. But this has been fascinating for me to see this. And he did say in an interview that he believes there could be another 80-85% retracement, which is what happened in 2013 after 2013 bull market in 2017. But that rattled a lot of people. But I think it's important to note that he said that if we go completely blow off top, like 500K, 400K, what did you guys pick up from that? And do you think that's a concern? Because I always said, like, if we go to 100K, we might retrace back to 50K. That'd be a 50% retracement. If we go to 200K, we might retrace back to 90K, 80K, which is kind of like 55% retracement. So the higher we go, the more we retrace. But what do you guys think?
Rob, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Yeah, I mean, obviously the faster we go up, the faster we can go down. So on this cycle, I'm hoping, well, actually, I hope I'm wrong. And my prediction was always between 130 and 150K. If we go up to 200, or like I think George has even talked about a 250K Bitcoin and why it's possible, then we'll see a retracement. And at that point, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss that 250K because I'm just like one of the Rothschilds said, I make all my money by selling before the top. And I also buy before everything hits the bottom, because I will never be able to time it like that. So I think if anything above 150, I'll be pretty happy. But yeah, 250, 300, 400, that is just a parabolic hockey stick that has to come down quickly.
I agree with that. I don't think Bitcoin can break 300K this cycle or the end of the year. I just don't see it. I do think we're going to be above 100, like what Rob said, maybe somewhere around 130, 150. I think that's reasonable. But it depends on how much FOMO there is after 100,000. And it's not just with retail, with the institutions and everyone else. So I think it really depends. If we do get a modest, and I say modest, say 130, let's say, right? I don't think we're going to have an 80%, 85% correction. It's just it seems very unlikely, in my opinion. But if we do rock it up to 250 and somehow we're going to like 275, 280, we're approaching 300, I'm going to say, yeah, then there's a good chance that we do have a blow off top. We may see some of that money flow into altcoins first. That's what people are waiting for, because when that happens, altcoins go up 5, 10, 15, 20x, like it did in 2018, the very first 2 weeks of 2018, right? And then everything could come back down afterwards. So I think it really depends on in December, as we're approaching December, how high Bitcoin gets.
Yeah. It's crazy to believe that just a little over 2 weeks ago, we were at 41,000. And now we're at 61,000. And I see that 41,000 as a new floor. A lot of people say, well, I'm waiting for 30. I'm waiting for 28. I'm waiting for 25. And somebody said we're going back to 20. I don't think we're ever going below 40, 41K again. Do you guys think we have a solid floor like that?
Well, first of all, I'll just say this. The people who are waiting for 30 and 20, they won't buy it at 30 and 20. They're the same people that always talk about, I'm going to pick it up when it gets to this. Never do. Yeah. So I don't see, all I can say is never say never. But I am pretty bullish in the long term, like I said, but the short term, the next week or so, I'm uneasy. So I'm just kind of out of it for this one.
Good. All right. Well, Miss George, you got nothing to add. The next topic, everybody's asking about Web3, and what our favorite Web3 plays are. So do you guys have any favorite Web3 investments that you like right now?
We're talking about like unstoppable domains, things like that?
Like Arweave, even traditional ones like, Filecoin, themselves, Web3, those types of futuristic plays. But I'm wondering, is that a part of your portfolio right now?
That's George's expertise, I think.
I mean, I was looking at right before, there's a lot of loose definitions about Web3. And really, Web3 comes down to is if it's decentralized. I mean, so honestly, everything in crypto could be considered Web3. If you narrow it down, it's more like, storage and, decentralized storage and dApps. But I mean, honestly, the networks themselves, they're Web3. I mean, Polkadot considers themselves Web3. It's just the underlying layer. Is it, are you incentivize people to power the network? Is it decentralized and spread across the globe, right? And those things are fundamental things that make up Web3. So if you believe in any project, any crypto project, I think you're supporting and believing that Web3 will take over. And and I love so many, right? I love so many, and I think all the ones that we've talked about, even Ethereum and Solana and Cardano, maybe not you, James, with Cardano, but Terra and some of the others, Polygon, Avalanche. I think they're all part of Web3, and I like their futures.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, So just one thing, like if we're thinking about that, what George said, like one of the projects, I mean, Filecoin, I own some of that, and then Theta, I went in pretty heavy a long time ago, and I just like what they're doing and the partnerships that they have with like Google and the CAA and those types of things. So I could see that one doing quite well just on that part, but the rest of them, everything else, sure.
Yeah, I did a deep dive into things like Arweave and the Graph, and I just couldn't make them work, Yeah. So I skipped. So that's my take on them. So let's see what else we got in the box. This is kind of interesting and a big question that everybody has. When do you stop DCA'ing, considering this is DCA Sunday? When do you stop DCA'ing into Bitcoin? Or do you ever stop?
Like pull a Michael Saylor and just never stop.
Yeah, he's a machine.
I stopped DCA'ing Bitcoin a while ago because, in all honesty, in realistic terms, like we were talking about, like George just said, I see 130, 150K. That sounds reasonable. So like right now, so what can I do? 2x the Bitcoin right now. So why would I put into Bitcoin, even though it's a great long play? Or I could put into some kind of alts that might do a lot better, like a Solana, like a Cardano, like a whatever. And I just think that's the play for me. The other stuff that I'll, for Bitcoin, those type of things, I can loan those out, get cash, and do the things I want to do. So that's my take. I've stopped already.
Dude, what about
For
you?
me, for
Yeah.
me, sorry.
Well, I know that, George, you got rid of some alts last week. A lot of people had some questions from you. George is ditching alts. He's going all in on Bitcoin. Sometimes people, as what was it, Rob? You sometimes describe it as they just read the thumbnail and invest based on the thumbnail, not listening to the actual content of the key message. But I
Thumbnail
think
investors. Yeah.
thumbnail investors. That's a great one. Maybe I can reuse that if I can pay the royalty fee for it. But George, you also caused a little bit of consternation saying you kind of ditched some alts, but I know it was very few. It was more of a rebalancing effort. But what's your take? At what stage would you stop buying Bitcoin?
It's an interesting question, and I think it depends on type of investor. Because if you look at a DCA calculator and you go back, and I've shown this before, you go back to 2017 and you just put, let's say, $100 every week into Bitcoin. Over the past 4 years, you would have made a tremendous amount, hundreds of percents. And it didn't matter Bitcoin went down. It didn't matter Bitcoin went from 20,000 down to 3,000, back to 14, down to 3, up to 64, down to 30, and back to where 60 is, right? If you simply stick with a schedule, it works. So if you're a type of investor, you're like, hey, you know what? I believe Bitcoin is the future. I'm just going to put in a set amount on a schedule and just let it ride for the next 5 to 10 years and then use that to retire with, then you never stop DCA. You just set that on your app and you just let it go. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that type of investor. Now, if you're heavily already into Bitcoin or crypto, then there's another type of strategy where you can try to view the trends, spot the trends, kind of ride the momentum sometimes, but also try to take advantage of dips. And if you can identify a top, let's say a blow off top is coming, then you could take advantage of that and take some profits, right? So that's a different type of investor where it's a little bit harder. But in that scenario, if you're trying to start taking profits, then it makes no sense to DCA because that would be counterintuitive, right? Like, so for me, that's what I plan on doing. After we break 64, and start heading to new highs, 70, 80, 90, 100, I'm going to start taking 10% off the top as we get closer and closer to the top. So I'm locking in those profits. I have that cash on the side. So if we do get that blow off top event, I'll still benefit because I have a lot of crypto still, but I also have a lot of cash on the side. If it corrects 85% or 50%, I'll be able to buy back in. So I'm employing that strategy. So from that essence, once I start taking profits, I'm going to stop DCA into it because it just doesn't make any sense anymore. Because if you go buy DCA and then you take profits, I mean, it's counterintuitive, right? But to go back to what you said about my video about rebalancing, I think it's very easy to kind of lose. Like, at least for me, it depends on how you guys have your portfolio balanced out. I've always followed 50, 25, 25 because I think it's just a really easy concept to get and it works so that you have majority portion in Bitcoin and then you have 50% in spread out between the big caps and small caps. But it's very easy to lose that because the altcoins have been moving up so much. So in my portfolio, Bitcoin started with 50%, but it got down really, really far down, like 20 something percent. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna put it back into Bitcoin or rebalance and go back heavy into Bitcoin because right now, it looks like Bitcoin dominance is on the uprise and is mimicking like 2017. So if that's the case, if we do have a huge Bitcoin run, it's definitely beneficial to have that 50% in Bitcoin. So that's what I did. But I still have 50% in altcoins. So it's not like I'm 90% in Bitcoin now, right? So it's still 50-50.
Yeah, great, good info. There is something related to that, and that is one of the things that I always talk about, kind of the risk curve. The further you go out the risk curve, the more gains, but the more risk. And as we go further into this bull market, we need to start culling our risky positions and moving to safety. So in the old world, if you asked me in 2017, my safety was a thing called fiat or USDT. Now my safety is Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So if you move something that maybe will do a 3x or a 5x or a 10x, but then you park your money on something that does a 2x, that's fine too. So the question that a lot of people ask sometimes is, well, when do you start rotating out of your riskier things, like even Ethereum, because there's still a lot of unknowns with Ethereum. And in full disclosure, I got a very big Ethereum bag. But when do you start killing those positions and moving them into safety? Or do you let everything ride, or you just balance gently like you do, George? Or Rob, what's your take on this?
I try to balance things out because, again, let's be honest. Bitcoin could go to 300,000, 400,000. Ethereum could go to 15,000, 20,000. Who knows? But am I gonna let everything just sit there and just kind of hope that it actually happens and everything works? For me, it just can't work like that, because if I do the same things that I used to do, I'll just be a bag holder in the end. I know people talk about you got to have these diamond hands. These diamond hands don't really give up anything. If you believe in that, then that's good. Go ahead and do whatever you want to do. Again, my goals aren't your goals. But if I look at it in my way for what I need to do, like I need to take profits just like I dollar cost average in for the last 4 years, I'm going to start dollar cost averaging out. And then when I feel like it's the right time, I will get out a lot of positions. But I will never get into just straight fiat, because what's the point of that? James is always talking about the interest rate being like 12, 15%. So what's the point of having fiat in a Wells Fargo account? It just gets eaten up. So I put it into other assets. I will put it into metals. I will put it into real estate. Now I'm putting into art with Masterworks. So like I will never have to deal with the fiat part, but I will just go that way. But as far as like Bitcoin to Ethereum, I don't know, because like Ethereum's, they still have these, they're still doing great. They still have a big thing, but unless they get that ETH 2.0 pushed out next year, which is going to be late next year, what about these other big plays? They could pass them by. So I want to try to spread a little bit around Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Cardano, those types of things.
And the Moon Boy calls, even from like Standard Chartered Bank in the UK and Raoul Pal and a whole bunch of others. Like a lot of people think $35,000 for Ethereum is like a foregone conclusion in this bull run. And I think it's just crazy. So what do you believe when like Raoul Pal knows his stuff? Very, very sophisticated guy. And the only thing that makes me believe that even a 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 Ethereum is possible is because it keeps getting drained from the exchanges and the supply is so little and it's really becoming truly deflationary. That is the big feather in the cap. Also, the growth rates are still there despite all the problems with gas, etc. But do you think 30, 35,000 ETH could happen? And if so, what would you guys do?
That's all George right there.
I buy a ticket with Virgin Galactic and go to space is what I would do.
No, that's too risky. We don't want to lose you, George, up there if something happens.
It's funny because I just did a video on Ethereum on how I could go to 15,000, and I even said in there I think that's a conservative number, and the reason being I value everything against the Bitcoin, and we're talking about Bitcoin doing at least a 2x from here, right? Most of us agree it'll be about 100, 120, 150, so that's about 2.5x. But if Bitcoin does go to 250, that's roughly a 4x. And if you look at it that way, well, if Bitcoin does a 4x, what's Ethereum? 4x at 10x. Let's just round up to 4,000. That's 16,000 already. So, and we know Ethereum has been moving faster than Bitcoin. You look at a last year performance, Ethereum has outperformed Bitcoin more than 1x. So, if Bitcoin goes 4x, who's to say that Ethereum can't do an 8x? Well, what's an 8x? 32,000 Ethereum. I think that's how Raul Paul's looking at it. He's just doing the same thing, looking at a multiplier of where Bitcoin is going to go, and then you apply it to Ethereum. And we'll see if that's the case. I mean, Ethereum, of course, before you could argue it was smaller, so it's, of course, it takes less money to move, but now it's pretty big. It's closing in at 450 billion, soon 500 billion, right? So is there enough money out there to move it? And I think James hit he made the ultimate point is, even though Ethereum is built to be inflationary, it's really deflationary at this point.
Yep.
DeFi projects are sucking up all the ethers out there. A lot of people have staked into the new chain, the Ethereum 2 chain, and of course the burning. Over $2 billion worth of ETH burn in like 2 months or 3 months, whatever it may be. So that's a lot. You add all that together, Ethereum is deflationary at this point.
And the wrapped ETH too.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, can it happen? Sure. In fact, it could happen, but is it likely? Maybe no, maybe not, but it could happen.
Well, I'm going to take this moment to have a commercial interruption to sell some stuff. So, guys, I know most of you already subscribed to George's channel and Rob's channel, but the description is below. Cryptos Are Us and Digital Asset News. Please subscribe if you haven't, and hit the likes too. Get this information out there. So we've got a couple more quick questions. I'll blast through real fast, and then we'll open up some Q&A. Another thing that everybody keeps asking me, it drives me crazy, and people are frustrated. Is it time to rotate out of slow movers, things that haven't bounced? Now, I'm a very patient guy, and I was big into Polkadot. I remember we did DCA back in August, I think, and I chose Polkadot. And it's only a matter of time before it pops. Matic, I believe, is very undervalued. That popped last week. Polkadot popped last week. But some others still haven't moved yet. And people are asking, and they're getting very impatient when they see everything else exploding. Is it time to rotate out of things like Cardano into faster trains, faster horses? What do you guys think? Or just wait for it to pop and go to wherever you think it's going to go?
Yeah, once everything starts to move, I mean, once the market starts getting up there, if it hasn't popped yet, it'll pop pretty hard. Usually that's what happens. Like, I mean, here's a prime example for everybody in the XRP army. They know that XRP in 2017, it was one of the last ones, and it really moved like rapidly. So if you would have sold everything before that opportunity, you'd have been like, holy smokes, I just lost out on 1,000 or 100% or whatever the gains were at that point from just like a 3-week play. So right now, like unless it's just just awful and it has nobody working on it and everything else, and you just don't believe in it. If you don't believe in the project anymore, then yeah, it's probably time to get out. But on most of them, I'm going to stick my ground.
Awesome.
I think it depends on the project and whether or not you're too heavy into it. I'll just make this example with Cardano. Those of us that stuck through crypto winter, we saw Cardano go below 10 cents. And it was like as low as 2-3 cents. And it was there for a long time. I think over a year, where it simply couldn't break 10 cents. And a lot of people lost faith, but some people didn't and believe that Charles and Cardano will continue to execute. And once they broke 10 cents, then they went up to $3 almost immediately. So that's a prime example how you shouldn't give up. And if you look at Cardano, as stagnant as it may be for the last month or two, the 1-year performance is more than double of Ethereum. Ethereum went up 900%. Cardano went up 2,000%. So that's a prime example of a project. If you believe in it, and it's a good one, obviously, if you believe in Floki or whatever new meme coin, that's a different story. But if you believe in a project and you've done your research and you do believe that they are going to go far, there's nothing wrong with holding it. Now, the second part to this is how heavy are you into it? Now, if you're holding, let's say 100% Cardano at this point, then it's a detriment to yourself not holding anything else. That's why I advise a diversified portfolio, so that you don't have to worry about it. If you have enough in Bitcoin, you have enough in Ethereum, you have enough in Solana, you have enough in Avalanche, right? Even if Cardano is stagnant, and it could be stagnant for months or years, The others will carry your portfolio, so you don't really have to worry about rebalancing and selling out as much as some people do, because I believe they're just too heavy into it. They're all in or majority in, and now they're seeing others move, so then they feel like they should make a change. So I guess it depends, how heavy you are into it and whether or not it's a good project that you believe in.
Yep, excellent points, guys. Very quick question, and then we'll open up to a little bit of Q&A. Everybody's talking to, I used to call it, cross-chain capabilities. Now the new acronym bingo is IBC, Inter-Blockchain Communications. How big do you think this will be? 60 seconds. Go. Are you
George,
believers?
hit that one.
Is it me? IBC, I think is big. Cosmos, I think that's the big thing, right? Cosmos kind of kicks that off, but Polkadot also has it too, and everyone's building bridges. Okay, and I think it's a good thing. It's a big thing. It basically takes a closed ecosystems and make them open, and now you have dexes that have better swaps between ERC20 and whatever other standard, TRC20 and Solana standard and other standards. So it makes DeFi better. It makes communication among dApps better. And overall, the more there is, the better it is for the entire ecosystem.
Excellent. Very final one before we open it to Q&A, unless you had something to add, Rob.
I was gonna say one thing. Like, can you imagine back in the day if you had a T-Mobile cell phone, you could only send text messages to other T-Mobile users? That's it. How ridiculous that would be now. Yeah. So when we talk about interoperability, it only makes sense.
Exactly. Good point.
That's a good point.
Let's talk about stakes. And people get tricked by this. They are enamored. Now, first of all, in full disclosure, I started sucking on the passive income pipe with Celsius and Voyager, and I've been blown away by the results. A simple case in point, I threw 1 Bitcoin at Celsius. The cost basis was $30K. That is now nearly $80,000 just in a tiny amount of time. We're talking less than 2 months. And that is just incredible, because a huge part of that, of course, is the doubling of Bitcoin, but also the interest you get on it, and the compounding of the compounding is very powerful. Yeah. But some people out there get sucked into this. Oh my God, what do you think of this project like DVPN? I can get 60% return every year. But people are tricked by this all the time, and you have to look very carefully. Yes, it is exciting to get such an APY, but you've got to also look at the risk. So with that one particular project, you can see here the returns. I think Bitcoin is up 40% in the time frame. That DVPN is down 25%. So what difference does it make if you're getting 60% APY? So what do you think of the people that get sucked in? And also they don't realize that to pay this interest, they just pull it out of the treasury, and it's inflation. So it's all kind of like a Ponzi smoke and game scheme. What do you think of the really high staking reward plays out there?
Well, I mean, just look at Mark Cuban. He got pulled into what was it, Iron Finance, because the APY was so great, and that was a big drug pull. And then like these projects, I don't know specifically DVPN, but I can just tell you, once you get those types of yields, you got to be thinking to yourself, what's the catch? Because there's always a catch. There's no free money. And this even lends me to think about the different exchanges that are out there that are offering some super high APY on the cryptos that are holding. I'm like, what are you exactly doing with that? Because there is no way, chance in hell, that you're getting all that type of APY from all these institutional investors. Something else is going on. And like I've talked to Mashinsky, I've talked to Ehrlich from Voyager and Celsius, and they explain it. But there's just always something in my back of my head, like there's something there. So I'm always a little bit cautious, and I think cautiousness is what kind of leads us to hopefully do the right decision when the time comes.
Yeah, I was gonna make the Mark Cuban example too. I mean, there's too many DeFi projects right now that's promising their APYs are just way too high, thousands of percents. And honestly, they're only doing that because they want people to fill their yield pools, because they're all empty right now. So they're promising that, and they hope things will figure it out. And then plus they have their own token, so they're doing something like a rebalancing between everything that's happening right now. And of course, the higher the yield, the more risk there is. And these projects,
Yeah.
Could be a vulnerability, could be a rug pull, a bank run, whatever you call it, right? It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So that's why me personally, I don't stake in any of these high yield pools out there. I just don't trust them. Now, as for what Rob said about, you know, like Celsius and BlockFi, Voyager, these guys, they obviously make their money by lending out to institutions. But you know, to me, it does seem like they do something else with it. You know, whether or not they buy GBDC or could they go invest or something, there is a risk there. There's definitely a risk there, or otherwise they wouldn't be able to provide, you know, 9% on your USDC or USDT, right? That is an enormous amount to be guaranteeing, and there is a risk there. But some of these, like for example, I think it could be Celsius. Like some of these percentage that they offer is simply because they run a node and they take a cut of that and then they just give you the remaining amount. So if you just run a node yourself, you would actually be making more interest than what, say, Celsius is offering. So that is what, you know, that's something that people don't realize. They're like, oh, you know, I could get whatever. I think Cardano is like 4.3% on Celsius. But if you just put it into a pool yourself, and I think Rob would know this, you're actually getting more closer to 5, right? So it's just a matter of knowledge too. People just aren't aware of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then,
excellent stuff.
Yeah, just one thing. That's why, like, I get this question all the time about my Cardano stake pool. They're like, Rob, why would I give it to your stake pool if I can get X%, 5.5 over at Voyager, and you're going to get me between 4 and 6%, and that's the average. I go, look, you can do that, but on my pool, you're not giving it up away. It's in your Daedalus wallet or your Yoroi or Ada Lite. It never leaves your wallet, and you control the keys. How much greater can you get in that? So if you want to deal with the exchanges, that's cool. But just know if something happens over there, and if they lend it out, or if something gets hacked, that's on the exchange, and you lose out.
Awesome. Okay, we've got 16 questions because we cap it real fast, and they happen real fast. So we want to make sure we get to everybody. So that means we got like 90 seconds to 2 minutes to blast through these. Some of them are very easy. Some are directly targeted at you guys. So let's go if you guys are open to that. The first one is a really cool question from Oscar Duarte. I've been a big fan of the Trinity. Some people call us the Three Musketeers as well, guys. I hope you're okay with that. He said, just curious who initiated this DCA and how did you guys meet? And thanks for all the great information. So I'll say how I believe it started. So Rob, you and I were chatting. We wanted to do a collaboration. George, you and I were chatting. You said, hey, have you ever seen this thing called Millennial Money, which I never saw? But he said, we can do a better one. And I said, and I just put the two together and decided to create the acronym DCA because DCA is very important to everybody. And here we are. And it's the acronym. So how do you guys see how it all happened?
Same way. I think you reached out to me because you were getting too much spam on your channel. And I was working with YouTube Guard.
Yep.
And that helped out. And then with George, I would go to his channel. And I remember one time I put a message. I go, when will George hit 100K? This is a travesty. And then George responded, I'm almost there. Now his guy's already like almost, he's at 500K, I believe.
Over half, yeah.
Yeah.
He became a hero with that pool. He became a pool guy, a pool guard. What was that pool called again? That made you famous? You know,
my pool?
No. The pool that was dumping Bitcoin.
The F2 pool.
F2 pool, that's right.
Yeah. You know, now that I think about it, F2 pool, they probably got a heads up of what China was going to do. That's why they were selling out.
Absolutely.
Like they probably had the inside knowledge. That's why they were like dumping way before, you know, China banned the miners. But yeah, you know what? To add upon that, you know, it frustrated me that the Millennial Money guys, like Kevin and everyone, you know, they were all like real estate guys, investment guys, and then they all like jumped into crypto as soon as crypto got hot, and they just talk nothing about crypto now, right? Mm-hmm. And it frustrated me that they had such a large audience, and they already, and it seems like they flipped to crypto, and everyone's just buying in what they were saying, even though they weren't the most knowledgeable guys. So I'm like, I think we could do better. I think we could do a lot better.
Good stuff. Well, great idea. So Nick Johnson, I recently moved my Coinbase portfolio to Celsius. Was that a risky move? So having all of your bag in one place, What do you guys think?
No, that's ridiculous. Sorry.
Good.
Wow.
That's my thought. George, what do you got?
Well, if you were to ask me who I trust more, Coinbase or Celsius, I would say Coinbase by far. Like it wouldn't even be close. So, and the reason being because Coinbase fully regulated, publicly traded, the biggest exchange in the U.S. So even though they don't have the best customer service, and yes, they have a history of banning people, but still, I would trust them and their custodian service and the insurance that they have way more than I would trust Celsius. So I think there is a danger there. But with that said, does not mean Celsius is like a mom and pop shop. All right. They're huge. They have a ton of AUM under their belt, and they do have a custodian service, a really good one with insurance and so forth. Right. But still, now when you're looking at regulators and who they're targeting, right now they're targeting lending companies. So Celsius, BlockFi, and probably Voyager will be on their list next. So there's definitely more risk there than say Coinbase.
Yeah, well, in terms of Coinbase, a lot of there's so many cases of people getting their accounts cleaned out, which isn't exactly Coinbase's problem. That could happen anywhere. But Celsius have never lost money, and they just raised $400 million. So if you're ever concerned about Celsius going away or disappearing, that's not going to happen. You don't raise $500 million round like that from very smart money if they're not convinced there is no regulatory risk. Anyway, El Rey Leon. Hey, Rob, what's going on with Sentiment Coin? You mentioned this coin a while ago. You said your friend was going to place an ad on NASCAR. Can you please give us an update?
Yeah, so it was Alex Mascioli, and he put the ad on, I forgot, Brandon Landon or something like that. But they won the Talladega event. So that came out, and then you will notice that if the driver of that car, there was a video that went viral because of Donald Trump Jr. Because as they were in Talladega and they were interviewing him, they kept saying "F you Biden," right? F you Biden, F you Biden, and then all of a sudden it became this "Let's go Brandon." That was a driver's name. So if you ever see "Let's go Brandon," it's from that. So to bring it all back, they put it on, I think it was number 85 card, correct me in the comments. They won Talladega, and he's going to actually keep doing things with NASCAR. But it's the same thing with Motorcycle Rebellion and the same thing with Voyager. They're going heavy into NASCAR and that demographic.
Cool. Excellent. This is an interesting one. I don't quite know the background. From Chris McGee. George, James sold his Avalanche too early, but still made more money overall by putting his profits into a faster horse. How is he wrong in this case? So I don't know what that's about, but obviously, but a little bit of background story. I had a price target. I got an Avalanche at $10. I told myself I'd sell it at 50. I saw it going to 48. I knew that was going to be a release of tokens coming right after the following week, month, whatever. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take my 5X and I'm going to stick it on. 2 days later, I stuck it on Solana when I went down to 121. And I did better. I'm becoming almost like a Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin maximalist at this stage. But that's what happened. Yes, I could have waited a little longer. I think it went up to 70. Now it's at 56. So it's like $8 off of where I exited. So, people think Avalanche is good. It is definitely good. It's definitely fast, but it's not as perfect as some other assets, in my opinion.
I think people are missing the point. The point I was trying to make, and it could have been, I don't know, it could have been something else other than Avalanche. The point is, I think if you're a trader, I guess that makes more sense. If you are always trying to catch the momentum, or if you're trying to get into a faster horse, then sure. But just like what we just got done talking about, should you switch a slow mover into a faster mover? If you believe in a project and you know that they're going to have a future, then there's nothing wrong with holding on to it, because you just don't know what may be announced. And Avalanche caught all of us off guard. I don't pretend like I was in Avalanche when it was at like $10. No. It's just like recently they came out with their Rush program and liquid staking and all this stuff that just came out. It was an avalanche of news, right? So you just don't know. Just like Cardano right now, I don't have a big bag Cardano, and I didn't buy Cardano at 10 cents either, right? But I do think, for example, there could be a catalyst right around the corner. You have Sunday Swap or Ergo or something that comes out of Cardano, and DEX is not working. Concurrency is not an issue. I think it's going to start going up afterwards. I think that's what everyone's waiting for. So in crypto, I think that sometimes you just have to wait it out and be patient, because you just don't know what may come and what may get announced. That's all.
Yep, excellent.
Yeah.
Copycat. And by the way,
Hold
one
on.
of the things that the audience likes about us three is we don't mind, debating each other. We have got very thick skins, and we all approach this whole space from very different angles, and that's the real value you guys all get out there. So, Rob.
Yeah. So I was going to say exactly what you said, but I was going to bring it back. James, what was your background before?
I used to trade hedge currencies for big companies around the world, Fortune 100 companies.
Exactly. So when James is talking about that, how many hours a day do you work, James?
16.
Exactly. So if you like to do trading and want to work 16 hours a day and put in the hard work, there's your guy. But I got to tell you, if you want to just just go like, okay, I'm going to do my own research and do a little bit of stuff here, and I'm going to DCA and just kind of sit back and let the chips fall where they may, that's kind of like where I'm at. And then George is kind of like me. So like everybody's kind of in that same way. I think James probably puts in the most hours, right? Probably close to George, and I probably put in the least. But that is really what it comes down to. There's different perspectives, and this is just how we all are. And you might resonate with somebody, but not with other person. That's how it goes.
But the three musketeers together, if they all agree, that's a killer combo. Let me see. This is a quick question, I think, from me from Copycat. James, in the MicroStrategy play, you bought an at-the-money $300 call and you sold a $290 put. What's the purpose of the put in this strategy? So I use the put to pay for the call, and that way I can really amplify my returns. And that position actually went from the cost of it for 10 contracts cost $2,000. It went to over $1 million within 2 months. So that's the power of selling the put. You really amplify your returns. But remember, trading options is extremely risky, so don't do it if you don't know what you're doing. So next question from Cronus6. Any thoughts on what is being called DeFi 2.0 projects like Toke, Ohm, Spell, and that aim to provide non-toxic liquidity projects? That's probably one for George. I did look at Ohm. Toke and Spell I'm not familiar with.
I don't even know what that means, non-toxic. I mean, DeFi is DeFi. I don't know what DeFi 2.0 is, honestly. Maybe, James, you could talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's just new ways of combining things like liquidity pools with decentralized finance, like what happens on the DEXs that are out there. But I never heard of non-toxic myself. But I'm intrigued. I will dig into it for sure and figure out. So again, sometimes as well, we get really, really hard questions, and we're not walking encyclopedias that cover all gamuts. We know a lot of stuff, but sometimes we get caught out. So apologies for not knowing the answer to that question. Justice Kessler, why did the crash in 2017 coincide with the launch of the Bitcoin futures? Super interesting question.
So I talked about this yesterday, and that was kind of what I was talking about with this ETF right here. However, when I was taking a look at the Pi cycle top chart, and you could just see that it just coincided. The 111-day moving average crossed over with, I think, the 300 or the 250 or whatever else it is. And it was like just on that day perfectly, it just hit those numbers. But I was in this, so I think to myself, okay, well, it could be just be a coincidence. But in all honesty, I kind of took a look back. I'm like, you can really, like we talked about before, you can really manipulate. I was on this panel yesterday with Da Vinci. You guys know that guy, been around forever, Bitcoin, whatnot. And he's like, I wanted to call the top in 2017, and I knew it was going to be during that time when the CBOE launched the futures. But he goes, I just didn't have the brass to do it. He goes, but I wish I would have done it because I knew it was going to crash after that. And I thought to myself, well, if that's the same thing, then maybe we can extrapolate that over here. But then there's all these things like there's, people have really bought into it. We're not like 2017. It's not just white papers, hopes, and dreams. You've got the countries, we've got El Salvador using it. You've got the institutions using it. You've got things locked up and it's in a black hole. So maybe or maybe not. That's why I'm not smart enough to know which way it's going to go. So this week I took a little bit of profits sitting on the sidelines.
Excellent.
In fact, real quick to add upon that, the former chair of CFTC, I forgot his first name, last name Giancarlo. He came
Yeah.
out and said it afterwards that the administration wanted to pop Bitcoin's bubble. They said it. That's why they approved Bitcoin futures. Everyone at that time thought that Bitcoin futures was not a good idea. It was rushed out, and people were really surprised that from the time it was talked about to the time it got approved was very, very short, like within a matter of like 2 months or something. And he came out and said that they okayed it for the sole purpose to pop Bitcoin's bubble. He said that in an interview. So that
That's right.
is
Yeah.
why it came out basically at that time, because they wanted to pop it. Now, the difference, I think, between then and now, how we're getting a Bitcoin futures ETF, is at that time, we knew Bitcoin was on a bubble kind of pump. It went
Mhm.
from 6,000 to 20,000 in 1 month. From mid November to December, it went up basically 3x, more than 3x. And had that futures not come, it probably kept going. It probably would have been up to like 30,000 or something before it popped. Something would have popped it because it was on a tremendous thing. It would be equivalent of Bitcoin, let's say, being at 80,000 by November, and we see a blow off top to 250,000 by December. It would be equivalent of that. So that's why I think it's different, because right now we're just coming back up to 60,000. We just went down 50%, and now we're coming back up. We're not in that same blow off top event. If we were at 250,000 Bitcoin right now and Bitcoin futures ETF was coming out Monday, I would say sell, because that will probably pop the bubble, but we're not in the same situation.
Excellent. This one for you, George from PC Nova. George, saw you pop into the Twitter space last night with Preston versus Mark Cuban. What are your thoughts on the debate?
Yeah.
Well, that was a good debate. I think Mark held his ground because it was like 1 versus 8 people. You had uh, Pompliano and Peter McCormick and a few others that I've never heard of before, but they were all like diehard Bitcoin maxis. And I didn't listen to the whole thing, but there's a couple interesting things. Number one is Mark was pressed on, hey, how can you talk about Doge when there's Bitcoin, right? You're misleading people. And Mark's point is this: he recognizes that Bitcoin is a store of value, right? Why would anyone trade or use store of value? Because you know it's going to go up. So if you know Bitcoin's going to double or triple from here, why would you spend it? So his point is, and he used his own son, I rather get my son into Dogecoin because it's cheap, it's fun. I could teach him crypto. He could send it, spend it, whatever. And that's the point. That's the point. So that's why he talks about Doge. And he's like, I don't own a lot of Doge. It's not like I'm trying to pump it for my own gain. It's a very easy way for people to get into crypto, get in a small amount and utilize it, versus Bitcoin, where it's much larger and most people are just buying it to hold. So I thought that point was valid, but of course, Bitcoin maxis do not like that.
It's
And the
when you
second point is, and I don't quite understand it, but maybe you guys can discuss. He was talking about El Salvador's situation, where basically the only flaw to what El Salvador's plan is in fully embracing Bitcoin is that they can't get Bitcoin free. Unlike other currencies for other countries, and this leads to inflation and endless printing. But in El Salvador's situation, he was making the fact that El Salvador has to purchase Bitcoin to be able to distribute it to its citizens, right? Unless they get enough miners there to basically utilize their volcanic energy, and then they're able to mine Bitcoin for free to distribute, there's always going to be some kind of friction, because now they bought Bitcoin, they distributed to their citizens, but now what's next? How do you drive the whole economy based on Bitcoin? Because they have to keep buying it unless they
yeah.
can mine it themselves. So he
Well,
was trying to make that point,
yeah.
and everyone on call didn't really get the point of that is,
Yeah.
what's the point of that.
Because
So
they still have
I think
fiat.
that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, they still have fiat currency, and the fact that they've got tons of renewable energy they can tap into, they can get their own Bitcoin for free, and they still have the backup plan of the US dollar. So As far as I can see, it's still a win-win for them.
But the dollar again is relying on if they need more dollars, right? They have to rely on the IMF or whoever to support them, and plus, if the dollar is deflating, that's still a reliance on something, a fiat that is deflating or devaluing, let's say. So I guess his point was, if El Salvador wanted truly to be off of fiat altogether and just operate on Bitcoin, you need to make that entry for Bitcoin frictionless and feeless, which they're not there yet. Doesn't mean they can't get there, but he was just making that point. I thought this is an interesting thing. I haven't heard anyone talk about that before.
It is definitely interesting. I'll noodle on that. Quick question from Eric Ayurapatayan. Could you please explain why Sol price will go up if ETH price goes up? Aren't they competing with each other since they both try to solve the same problems? Great question. I'll take a quick stab at that and let you guys chime in. First of all, when you look at crypto market cap, a rising tide floats all boats. So if the crypto market cap goes from 2 trillion to 5 trillion, everything has to go up approximately by 2.5x. And that will drag everything else with it. When you look at the valuation of Ethereum multiplying, going up 4x, as George mentioned earlier today, being very feasible, that means the whole market is more valuable. That means the space of DeFi, smart contracts, etc., is more valuable, and that will raise up the rest of the players that are competing. So it's not like a zero-sum game. For every winner, there's a loser. Your thoughts, guys?
You know what? Talk to us real quick. This is gonna be. I'm gonna throw it back to you, James. Like, I mean, besides just going up all the way, what would it take for Solana to flip Ethereum, to flip Tether, to flip whatever's in third spot? That's the real question.
Yeah, I don't see Solana flipping Ethereum for a long time. It's 11th the size of Ethereum right now. I do see it flipping. I do see it flipping Cardano though, and that's been my bet from the beginning of the year. So we'll just watch that. But I still think the more adoption in this space, in the smart contract platform, layer ones, whatever you want to call them, the more value is recognized. And the real trump card that Ethereum has, of course, is the deflationary aspect, which could make it run faster. But I think because Solana is so undervalued, that could actually run fast in Ethereum too. And they have so much exponential growth ahead of them. And the other thing as well to remember, everybody, Solana's finished. Even though they call it a beta, it's pretty much finished. Ethereum 2.0 is far from finished. And there'll be code complete, Feb? 4 months after that they'll launch. It'll be June 2022 before they can actually launch their proof of stake protocol. True?
Go ahead, George.
I was going to say, it's important to remember that all these projects, as big as they seem, they're still very early, and people are still trying to figure it out. And it doesn't mean that there's only one winner. So it doesn't mean that Ethereum or Solana will be the one winner and everyone else dies off. The market's big enough for both. It's big enough for more than two. It's big enough for like 10 projects. Yeah. And because of that, because they're early and people are still trying to figure it out, and there's a lot more dApps that's coming, right? The market for both and many others will continue to rise. It doesn't mean that one has to eat the other's lunch. Not at this point. Maybe when they're much bigger, multi-trillion-dollar market cap projects, then it'll be a different story.
It's funny. There's a funny comment in the chat here as well from Nick Carter. I think all of you maybe know this Nick Carter. Cuban's just a rich crypto tourist, a fiat maxi. I thought that was funny and worth sharing. So, okay.
That's the truth.
Let's go more.
Hey, just real quick, James, I got to tell you on the Solana thing. You know, FTX, your guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, yep. They open up their NFT marketplace. And, of course, you can get all the Solana NFTs. So I bought a couple over there, and I use this wallet called Phantom Wallet.
Yep,
it's fantastic.
Yep.
So everything's fast. The transaction fees are like fractions of cents, and then also you can also swap within the Phantom Wallet from Solana to Tether and like a couple other ones, and there was no cost. So like we're doing right there.
Can you move wrapped Ether from? I'm having a mistake from the other. What's the other wallet with the picture of the fox on it?
Oh, MetaMask.
MetaMask. Can you move wrapped Ether from MetaMask to Phantom? Yeah. That's what I want to know. If anybody knows, drop a comment below. Because
You can, yeah, you can move wrapped Ethereum from into.
from MetaMask to Phantom, because that would solve people a lot of gas problems if they could do that.
I don't
So let's see. Let me see.
think
Oh
that's
no,
possible because there's no bridge yet from Solana to Ethereum.
Exactly.
Right?
They say they're building one, but it's not ready yet. Anyway,
yeah, you can. Yeah, you can do this. You can do Solana to USDT, Serum, Radium, wrapped Ethereum.
Okay, quick question from Darnell Parker for you guys. If you have to buy one asset from today to the end of the year, you got a choice between Solana, Chainlink, Avalanche, or Phantom. Which one would you buy and why?
George,
Solana.
Solana, okay.
Solana.
Rob?
I buy them all.
Buy them all, okay. Johnny 5, any strategies for active duty? This is one for you, Rob. Would you go heavier on Bitcoin and ETH or alts? Does the 50, 25, 25 per George still apply? Currently overseas and have been following all of you for a good while now. Huddle the line, everybody. Thank you for your service, Johnny 5. Over to the guys.
So Johnny 5, I mean, if you're overseas, I don't know for the different tax implications over there. I know when you're over there, there's no tax. I don't know how that works as far as like with the capital gains tax. But I mean, everybody's like, it depends on your situation. I can't really speak to you because I don't really know where you're going. So like to be safe, 50, 25, 25 is good. If you're a young kid, like when I was in the Army, 19 years old, I had a lot of money and not a lot of brain power. I would just put it into some pretty risky stuff, but I would still put into a little bit of the safety parts, which is Bitcoin, Ethereum, that type of thing. So I can't speak to you, but hopefully make it back okay.
Okay, excellent. Johnny GB from the United Kingdom. Hey guys, regarding the miners hodling their mined Bitcoin, in the future, could the largest miners join together and become like an OPEC of Bitcoin and control the price? Brilliant question.
We already had that. China had more than 50%.
65%, yeah.
Yeah, they were much higher than that. But it didn't seem like they were colluding or doing anything. They were still operating as competitors, the mining pools and different facility. They were still kind of competing with each other. So I don't know. I guess that's the reason why some people didn't like Michael Saylor forming that council in North America, because of the same reason. Like, oh, can they collude and have their own agenda? I mean, there's always going to be speculation about that, but I think I don't know. I don't think it's something that we have to worry about.
It's far too fragmented now with Kazakhstan and Iran and El Salvador and Canada and US and all these Russia, huge mining facility. I think the Chinese miners that had to pack up and move, like F2 Pool, I think you're dead right, George. I think they got wind early and they started selling their Bitcoin and started putting their rigs on trucks and negotiating with other countries. And that's where they set up. They set up in Russia and they set up in Kazakhstan. But I don't know if I'd be comfortable setting up under Putin. But that's a separate issue. Capono, all my crypto is bought and sold on an iPhone. Trezor does not work on iPhones. Can I trust the Ledger Nano X to store my crypto from my iPhone?
I mean, gosh. So what he's doing, what he's talking about is connecting to the Ledger Nano X because it's a Bluetooth compatible device. I think that's what he's talking about. So you're not really storing it on your iPhone. I mean, if you're using a Nano X, you're actually storing within the blockchain and you're taking your mnemonic phrases down and you're transferring it that way. So as far as like connecting, it's a little bit different. What he's talking about is Ledger Live, and Ledger Live doesn't hold it on your phone. It's within the blockchain itself. So I use the old style one. So, but it should be the same principles. Mnemonic phrases in the blockchain. You control the phrases. You have the keys to your cryptocurrency. It's only Ledger Live that shows you the balance. So
you'd have no concern with the Ledger Nano X. Probably it might be my fault because I said I'm a Trezor guy because I don't like Ledger because they lost the customer information a few years ago. That's kind of my gig. All right, next question, Kevin, from Mike 2025. What's your rating on customer service at Voyager? I've never called Voyager customer service, never had to.
I just sent a message to them Thursday to raise some limits. Haven't heard back from them yet. So I will just tell you this. The reason why I stopped promoting Voyager months ago was because half of my entire email inbox was complaints about Voyager. And I said, I need to stop. And I told Steve, the CEO, and we had a little discussion. little discussion about that, and he understood. And then later on, when he did what he said he was going to do, he actually reversed it. Now it's less so, but you got to understand, there's still a bunch of people coming in, and even me, I'm like, I would hope that we get back in 24 to 48 hours, but I'm still waiting on my ticket. So that's all I can say to you.
Okay, Kevin Smith. We'll blast through these last ones very quickly because we're running out of time. What do you think of the Flux project, FLUX? It's ranked number 446. I don't look outside the top 300. It looks...
George?
Never heard of it, so can't comment on it.
It's a mineable play. Nobody knows. Sorry. So sorry about that.
I haven't heard of it. Sorry, man.
Philip, did you look at Luxo yet, James? 2x since asked. Yes, I did, but again, it wasn't of interest to me. I have a stable at 10 cryptos. Do you guys know Luxo, and do you like it if you do?
I've heard of them. Their total supply is very vast because they're trying to prepare for NFTs. But the reason why people like it is because of Fabian. He's an early developer of Ethereum. He created the ERC20 standard, and he is like the main guy behind Luxo. So
yeah,
there's promise there.
There is promise. You know, it's kind of a bit under the all-time high. I don't like it. The tokenomics really, really sucked. As you say, huge supply, and that always turns me off. So with that, guys, I'm going to say a quick thank you to some people that donated. We've got a big adoption coming up, and we'll share that later this week. Christian Meyer, the Three Musketeers, he loves you guys. Letrolto, Kiwi Robin, thank you, Kiwi, Capono, El Ray, Steve G, Don Dude, Nick Dobson, Hey Fadel, Animesh Anand, Playing with Pastels, and some Poochies, Baba Zuri. That is... So I think that was probably one of the best conversations we've ever had, guys. So I really appreciate you being here.
I like that.
And we'll be rotating around a lot. Let's just check out the market, see if anything exploded while we were talking. No, still kind of... Oh, Bitcoin is up. We'll take that. It's up about $100 since we began.
James, by the way, the links to Maya and Rob's channel don't work.
People always say that, but if I add the www before it, the system within YouTube knocks it off. You can't have a www. But if you cut and paste or click it, if I add it, it'll cut off the end of the actual the address.
Yeah, so, but it's weird because if you click it, if you look at a URL, it's youtube.com/youtube.com/our channel. So it adds an extra youtube.com in front of it.
It shouldn't.
Yeah. You know what you should... Well, how about this? This is what I do for everybody in my list and description. I just do bit.ly to shorten it, and it works out great.
Great.
Yeah,
I will fix that right away. And deepest apologies, because I just wrote it in, like youtube.com/cryptos are us. And
that's okay. Just do a quick search, everybody. You'll find us.
Yeah, everybody knows who you guys are. But really appreciate it. Any closing remarks?
Good luck this week.
Yeah. I expect Bitcoin to make a new high this week. So we'll see if that's right.
Yeah. So a lot of people actually, just on the final note, a lot of people think it's going to tank. I think it's just going to continue going up. Rob? George and I are on the same page.
I'm torn with the different points that I've talked about before. So again, I just took a little bit of profits. And if I'm wrong, hey, I didn't lose that much. And if I'm right, well, hey, I got some profits and I can finish up this damn real estate deal.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody out there in the audience as well for the time. Really good session. And we'll see you all soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
All right, take care, guys.
Okay. Bye, guys.